Have you noticed a change in your loved one lately? Maybe their clothes seem looser, their wedding ring slips off too easily, or they just don't eat as much as they used to. You might think, well, that's just part of getting older. But what if it's not? What if this is their body quietly telling you something important, something you don't want to miss? Most of us think that when the end of life comes, it happens suddenly. But the truth is, the body often gives subtle warnings months, even a year in advance. The saddest part? Most people don't recognize the signs until it's too late. Today, I want to share a story about William. He was 84 years old, a proud father and grandfather. His family adored him, but they didn't notice the changes right away. First, he lost a little weight. Just old age, they thought. Then his appetite faded. He started pushing food around his plate, eating only a few bites. His daughter brought him his favorite homemade stew, but he barely touched it. Maybe he's just not in the mood, she reasoned. Months passed, and William's energy declined. His once strong hands looked thinner. His clothes hung loosely on his frame. By the time his family realized something was wrong, William was too weak for medical intervention. They wished they had noticed sooner. They wished they had understood what his body was telling them. William's story is not uncommon. Significant weight loss is one of the earliest and most important signs that an elderly person may be approaching their final year of life. It's not just about looking thinner. It's a sign that the body is struggling. When the body stops absorbing nutrients properly, muscles shrink, strength fades, and immune defenses weaken. This makes the person more vulnerable to falls, infections, and chronic fatigue. And here's something most people don't realize. As the body slows down, the brain stops signaling hunger as often. Food doesn't taste the same. Meals feel more like a chore than a pleasure. It's not stubbornness. It's a natural process. So what can you do if you notice a loved one losing weight? First, don't ignore it. Talk to them gently. Ask if they're feeling weaker, if food doesn't taste right, or if they're having trouble chewing or swallowing. Sometimes simple changes can help. Offering soft, easy-to-eat foods, serving smaller but more frequent meals, or incorporating nutrient-rich shakes. But if the weight keeps dropping, it's time to have a serious conversation with their doctor. The most important thing? Don't try to force large meals. When the body is in decline, eating more won't always fix the problem. Instead, focus on what brings comfort. A warm bowl of soup, a spoonful of ice cream, or just sitting together at the table, making mealtime a peaceful experience. If you've noticed this change in someone you love, don't brush it off. Pay attention now, because recognizing this sign early can help you prepare, support them better, and most importantly, make the most of the time you have left together. If this resonates with you, comment 1 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, so you don't miss important insights that could help you and your loved ones. Now let's talk about another sign that's just as important. After months of watching her father eat less and lose weight, William's daughter, Sarah, started noticing something else, something even more worrying. William had always been an early riser, starting his mornings with a quiet walk outside. But lately, he wasn't waking up as early. In fact, some days, he barely got out of bed at all. When Sarah asked if he was okay, he just smiled weakly and said, "I'm just a little tired." At first, she believed him. After all, he was in his 80s. Wasn't it normal to slow down? But soon it wasn't just sleeping in. He needed to rest after just a few minutes of walking. Conversations that once excited him now seemed exhausting. Even holding a cup of tea took effort. Sarah encouraged him to stay active. "Come on, Dad, let's go outside. Just a short walk." He tried, but within a few steps, his legs felt weak. His breath came in short bursts, and he had to sit down. That's when she realized this wasn't just tiredness. This was his body telling her something important. One of the biggest but most misunderstood signs in the final year of life is extreme fatigue and weakness. This isn't the kind of tiredness a good night's sleep can fix. It's a deep, lasting exhaustion caused by the body slowly conserving energy for essential functions. Why does this happen? As the body approaches its final stage, the heart doesn't pump as strongly, blood circulation weakens, and muscles don't get enough oxygen. This is why simple activities, getting dressed, standing up, or even holding a conversation, can feel overwhelming. And it's not just physical, the emotional toll is just as heavy. William, a man who took so much pride in his independence, started feeling frustrated. He hated asking for help. He felt embarrassed when he struggled with things that once came so easily. So, like many seniors, he began to withdraw. He spoke less. He turned down visits from friends. He stopped doing the things he once loved, not because he didn't care, but because he simply didn't have the energy. This is something families often mistake for depression or stubbornness, but the truth is, it's the body's way of slowing down. So, what can you do if you see this happening? First, don't push. Encouraging them to try harder won't help. Instead, recognize their limits and focus on comfort. Let them rest when they need to, but also keep their spirits up. Play their favorite music. Sit with them and remind them that their presence, not their productivity, is what matters most. If your loved one is sleeping more, moving less, and pulling away from activities they once enjoyed, pay attention. It's not laziness and it's not just aging. It's their body preparing for a major transition. The best thing you can do is be there for them, without expectations, without pressure, just love, patience, and presence. Have you noticed a loved one struggling with extreme fatigue? Comment 2 below if this resonates with you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because the next sign might be the hardest one to talk about, but it's one you need to know. Sarah had always admired her father's sharp mind. William was the kind of man who never forgot a birthday, who could tell detailed stories from decades ago as if they had happened yesterday. But lately, something had changed. One afternoon, as Sarah sat beside him, she noticed he seemed distant, staring at the window with a puzzled look. "Dad, what are you thinking about?" she asked. He hesitated. I was just trying to remember what day it is," he said, shaking his head. "It's funny, I had it just a second ago." At first, Sarah brushed it off. After all, forgetting the day now and then is normal. But as weeks passed, the small lapses became more frequent. He struggled to follow conversations. Sometimes, he repeated the same question he had asked just minutes earlier. Then came the moment that made Sarah's heart drop. She walked into the living room, and William looked up at her with uncertainty in his eyes. "You remind me of someone," he said with a nervous chuckle. "You look just like my daughter." Her throat tightened. "Dad, it's me." The reality hit her. This wasn't just forgetfulness. William's mind was fading in and out. One of the most heartbreaking signs in the final year of life is confusion and withdrawal. As the body weakens, so does the brain. Blood flow slows, oxygen levels drop, and the mind, just like the muscles, starts losing strength. A person who was once quick and engaged may suddenly struggle to recall names, places, or even recognize loved ones. And it's not just memory. Decision-making becomes harder. Conversations feel overwhelming. Time loses meaning. Some days they may seem completely lucid, only to become lost and disoriented the next. Families often mistake this for dementia, but in many cases, it's simply the body preparing for its final transition. For many seniors, this leads to emotional withdrawal. William, once a social and loving man, started speaking less. He would sit quietly for long periods, barely engaging. It wasn't that he didn't care. It was that his brain no longer processed interactions the same way. Conversations became exhausting. Crowded rooms felt overwhelming. It was easier to retreat into silence. Sarah missed her father's voice, his laughter, the way he used to tell stories. And she felt helpless. "What can I do?" she asked the doctor. The answer wasn't to force William to remember. It was to meet him where he was. If your loved one is becoming forgetful, withdrawn, or confused, don't correct them. Don't argue. Don't say, "Don't you remember?" Because the truth is, they might not. Instead, offer reassurance. If they forget your name, remind them gently, but don't make them feel guilty. If they struggle with conversations, sit with them in quiet companionship. Hold their hand. Play familiar music. Create a safe, peaceful space where they feel loved, no matter what they remember. Sarah learned to stop asking William to be the man he once was. Instead, she cherished the moments they still had, whether it was a shared smile, a warm embrace, or simply sitting together in silence. If this part of William's story resonates with you, comment 3 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Because the next sign is one that no family wants to face, but knowing it could make all the difference. Sarah did her best to adjust to her father's changing memory. She learned to meet him where he was, even when he didn't always recognize her. But just when she thought she was getting used to this new reality, another problem appeared, one she hadn't expected. William started getting sick. It began with a small cough that wouldn't go away. Then, he developed a fever. A trip to the doctor confirmed a urinary tract infection, something he had never struggled with before. A round of antibiotics seemed to help, but only weeks later he got sick again. This time, it was pneumonia. His once strong immune system was failing him. Sarah was worried, but the doctor gently explained something she hadn't considered. When the body nears its final stage, the immune system weakens, making even minor infections a serious threat. What used to be a simple cold could now last for weeks. A small cut on his arm took twice as long to heal. His skin bruised easily, and his energy drained faster than before. The doctor's words hit her hard. His body isn't fighting like it used to. It's preparing for something else. One of the clearest signs that an elderly person may be in their final year is frequent infections and slow healing. The body's ability to repair itself declines. Wounds take longer to close. Coughs linger. Even something as simple as a UTI can cause confusion, fatigue, and a dangerous downward spiral. Sarah had always believed that every sickness had a cure. If her father got an infection, medicine would fix it, right? But she started to see the pattern. Each time William got sick, it took longer for him to bounce back. Each illness left him a little weaker than before. Families often struggle at this stage. The instinct is to fight, to push for stronger treatments, hospital visits, another round of medicine. But at some point, the focus shifts. Instead of chasing a cure, the goal becomes comfort. So what can you do if your loved one is experiencing frequent infections? First, watch for early signs of illness. Many infections in the elderly don't show up the way we expect. Instead of a high fever, they may simply seem more tired, more confused, or uninterested in eating. Catching these changes early can make a difference in their comfort. Second, focus on prevention. Keeping their skin moisturized can prevent bed sores. Helping them stay hydrated can reduce the risk of UTIs. And making sure they are warm and comfortable can help them avoid respiratory infections. Finally, shift your mindset. If illnesses keep returning, ask yourself, is this about fighting, or is it about making their time as peaceful as possible? Sarah wrestled with this question. She wanted to believe that one more treatment would bring William back to the way he used to be. But as she watched him grow weaker, she realized her job wasn't to fix him. It was to love him through this transition. If this part of William's story resonates with you, comment 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because the final sign is the hardest one to witness, but knowing it can help you bring peace to your loved one's final days.